Good morning, everybody. Just obviously want to welcome everybody to another month of our senior living education series. And just as a reminder, these seminars are designed to educate, empower, and equip older adults and their families and loved ones as we all just navigate life decisions. So whether you're planning for yourself or for a loved one, or just simply wanting to just learn more, we are here to just provide practical, real life guidance and support. So just thank everybody for being here today. One quick announcement that we have is our community tour day, which is going to happen on Wednesday, September 10th. So we will be touring. It's an all-day chance to basically explore both of our education partners, which is Park Center and Hearthstone. So basically the plan, rough tentative plan right now, is to leave from the gathering place at 8:30. So get here around 8:15, and then we'll get on the bus and load up and leave at 8:30. Head to Park Center first, have a light breakfast there, tour the community and the amenities that they have to offer there, and then we will then get back on the bus and travel to Pella, to Hearthstone, and then basically have a light lunch there as well, and then obviously we'll tour their all of their communities and everything that they have to offer amenities, lifestyle, and things like that. And then the plan is to hopefully be back in Monroe by 4 p.m. This is the first time we've ever done it, so it's a tentative plan, and we are hoping the timing works out. But yeah, so that's kind of the plan. So an important thing, we currently have 10 people signed up. We have a bus that currently seats 12. So if we have more than 12 people sign up, we will look at additional transportation options. And I would like everybody to at least try to ride together, so it feels more like a community, and just so it's less individual, and so we can do it together essentially. But yeah, with that, if you want to sign up, we'll have that sheet in the back afterwards. So I will next give it to Montessa, who is with Hearthstone, just to give a little education partner spotlight, who she is, what she does, and just what Hearthstone is, and all of that.
Hi, I'm Montessa Brown. I'm the sales director over at Hearthstone in Pella. Over in Pella, we have independent living all the way through to long-term care and memory care. So when you guys come over to see us, I'm going to probably show you our long-term care for your loved ones. And then we'll go over to our independent living also, if you're interested in that. So we'll kind of look at those things. But Hearthstone is a nonprofit, and we have a mission base. And so Park Center is also nonprofit. It's a sister property to us, and we're all under the umbrella of Wesley Life. And Wesley Life has multiple properties across Iowa. There's about 11 of them. So one of the things that's really nice about Lisa's property at Park Center and my property, because we are a nonprofit and mission-based, if people outlive their funds, they don't have to leave, which is something super special that I love so much about our community. So as I mentioned, we have independent living. There's I think there's 60 apartments in our independent living over there. And we'll probably look at, we have about 7 floor plans, but we'll maybe look at 3 different floor plans while we're there, the most common ones. And then we have another building, and it's called Catered Living. It's our Fairhaven East building, and that building's independent living, but it comes with 3 meals a day, and then they'll do your laundry. At both of those buildings, you can add services hourly, like you can add housekeeping or just a bunch of different services, almost anything you can think of, you can add in an hourly service. So that's kind of how that works. And then we do have assisted living when people need more care, and long-term care, which is like nursing home level care, and skilled care if people have a surgery and they want to come there. But right there, just outside of Pella, we have 4 buildings. And so we're going to go look at probably 2 of the 4 buildings when you come over. So that should be kind of fun. So, but Pella's a wonderful community. Anybody from Pella? Hi. Yeah. So anyways, I'm sure you guys are familiar with Pella, but we'll have a nice time when you guys come over. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, question? I know. Right. Yes. Yeah. So I know they make it super extra confusing. So we're all under the umbrella of Hearthstone, but the buildings each have a name. The cottages is one of them. And then we have Fairhaven East and Pella Manor. And then we have kind of a new addition on the back of the cottages. So we might have lunch there. And really, I want to show you that for your loved ones. I know we have lots of people who've had a spouse, a sibling, a friend, or parents that have lived there. So I like to show that off. And then we'll go over and look at the independent living also. But yeah, they all have a name. And then to make it even more confusing, it's under Wesley Life, which would be the park, Center Park. So any other questions for me? All right. Well, I hope you guys can come. He's got a couple more spots open. So I hope that you guys are able to, a few more people will be able to sign up here. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Montessa. So we will just go ahead and dig into today's topic, which is emergency preparedness for older adults. So obviously this is one we often don't think about until it's kind of too late. And the big part of being prepared is just making sure we have the right information and making sure it's easily available. For today, we will just go ahead and start the panel discussion. Okay, technical difficulties, but that's all right. We'll start the panel discussion. We invited two professionals who work on the front lines of emergency responses and preparedness. So first we have Tyler Jenkins, who's the fire chief in Monroe. Then we have Jamey Robinson, who is the emergency management director for Jasper County. So just want to give them a warm welcome. We'll just go ahead and dive into these first questions here. So obviously before we kind of talk about emergency plans and gear and what we actually need, kind of can start with the overall foundation, which I think would be awareness and prevention. So being alert to what's happening around you is kind of the first line of defense. So I guess, Tyler, from your perspective as fire chief, how can older adults improve their awareness of their overall surroundings, and why is it so critical in preventing emergencies before they actually happen?
Can you hear me? So most of our emergencies we have among the older community stem from falls. That's probably, I would say, 70 to 80% of our calls that we get are falls from elderly people. So one of the big things, be aware of uneven surfaces, poor lighting, slick floors, stuff like that that is an obvious trip hazard. Make sure you're aware of those. Clutter. Clutter is definitely a huge thing for us. As EMS providers, it's hard for us to get some of our stuff in there and get the people in there if there's a lot of clutter all around the house to where we're tripping over it, trying to get in and out. You guys are going to be tripping over it as well. So the less clutter you can have, the better off you're going to be. Make your daily activities as easily as accessible as possible. You know, it's the simple things as making coffee or getting your orange juice or whatever. Try to make everything as readily as possible. Maybe just put it on a lower shelf, or put it on a different shelf in the fridge, or just make it to where you're not struggling to get those things, where it's easy to do. Maybe try to put some of your higher stuff down in lower shelves, so you're not trying to stand on chairs or stand on ladders or anything like that. If possible, limit stairs. Stairs are a big one for us. That falls a lot of times can happen going up or down stairs, whether it's just slick stairs or just a little trip. Another real big thing is know your limitations. We see it a lot where people are trying to do more than they should, and then they end up hurting themselves, to where you're a lot better off you just wait a little while, get some help, and then we can avoid everything. A few other things that are real big nowadays are the wearable devices. They're a little pendant you can put around your neck. All you do is hit a little button. It's got all your information on it. It sends it to the life alert people, and then they can dispatch us out quick, and you don't have to try to mess with the phone and try to mess with trying to give us a call. So or call 911 or anything like that. Those are just a few of the big things that we see from day to day that would change a lot if you can help those and keep the clutter down and make you a lot safer and us a lot safer. The pendant. They make a lot of different ones, but Life Alert's a big one, I think, where it's just a little pendant that you wear around your neck. All you do is click the button, and it sends Jamey might know a little more about these, but it just sends it to a dispatcher for life alert, and then they contact 911, and then they will send it right to us, and they'll already have all your information, your address, probably your medical history and stuff like that.
They're actually starting to integrate those into your cellular devices too. So we get them for motor vehicle accidents. Someone put their phone up on the roof and take off and their phone falls off. They'll call us for a motor vehicle accident because the phone's been in a significant. Same thing with fall detection. They're coming around to where if you fall with your phone, it can call 911.
I have seen it too with smartwatches.
Yep. Smartwatches.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of obviously awareness is only part of the picture, but once you like notice a potential problem, it's actually doing something about it, actually fixing it. So those are good practical steps on things that we could do. And then one other thing would be a way to communicate, finding a way to communicate and connect with your families quickly. So when you're creating a family communication plan, if something were to happen, what should be included on that, and how can families plan for situations when cell service might be out or power might be out or something like that?
Yeah, so the key to it is keep it simple. You don't need some long 50-page plan. In my office, we write plans. I mean, that's what we do all the time. So it doesn't do any good if you have this big drawn-out plan. The big thing with your communication, yes, those pendants, you could probably Google life pendants, or I don't know if some of the facilities have any resources like that. Yeah. If you've ever seen the one with the lady on the floor, I've fallen and I can't get up. And I could probably do some looking and send it to Andy and he can present it to you, share it with you next month too. As far as the communication plan though, one of the big things that we see is everybody goes to cell phones. How many of you have landlines? Landlines are fantastic because it's been around. It's an infrastructure that's been built for a long time. And typically phone lines and stuff are underground. So it's one of the last utilities that go out. So even when power and everything goes out, you typically still have a landline. If it's the true landline, there's a lot of VoIP over internet, phones, different things like that. But if it is a true home phone, then it should still work. And a lot of times, if we have an emergency or disaster locally, it will take out the local connectivity. So when you develop that communication plan, it's looking at someone that's outside of the area that you would call. You and, if you have loved ones in the same area, you would call someone. If you had a family member in Nebraska, you would both call them and check in there, because typically the calling outside of your area will still work. The other thing with cell phones is, even though voice may go down, if you try making a phone call, have you ever made a phone call and it says all circuits are busy? Okay, that's because the tower has too much traffic going on it. And usually when something big happens, what do you think first thing everybody does? Pick up their cell phone, right? They want to make a phone call. Well, a lot of times now they're hitting the old video button in their video because they got to get likes on their Facebook page or TikTok or their Twitter, whatever it may be. So it ties up that. But text messages don't take as much bandwidth. So you should still be able to send a text message. So even, if you have John in Nebraska, that's a cousin or whatever, and everybody knows to send John a message, and then he could tell everybody, hey, I've heard from everybody checked in. Having a location to go is also important in your communication plan. Where are we going to meet up? Whether that's in the area or outside of the area, it's always best to kind of plan outside of the area, because again, depending on what's going on here locally, it may be hard to get to the gathering place because of an emergency. So just having an idea of where everybody should meet and get to is going to be very important. I talked about texting, radios. If you have radios, it's great, but not everybody's sitting around with a radio at home. And the big thing is to practice it. Plans are great, but you need to practice them and make sure that they work. You need to make sure that they're updated. Did John in Nebraska change his phone number? Is John no longer with us? That's not the person you want to be reaching out to in an emergency. So just kind of making sure that the plan is solid and that it's going to be functional for you is the key.
And not every emergency affects everybody the same way. So kind of varies depending on how old we are, mobility, and like what our health might look like. So I can make a big difference in how we prepare for an emergency and or respond to one. So I guess, Jamey, how does, from that perspective, how does age or health change the way someone should prepare for emergencies? Are there any extra considerations that older adults should keep in mind?
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it there with how are you getting around? If you have a walker or a wheelchair, are you able to easily get that out of your home? Typically, if someone has a wheelchair, someone has put in a ramp for them. I have seen though where people rely on wheelchairs and the family just takes care of them in the house and helps them out of the home. But in an emergency, having that ramp is going to be key. You may not have time to carry someone down those stairs. I mean, even if you think of a house fire, and typically you just carry your loved one out of the home, not use their wheelchair. That's not going to work in an instant like that. So making sure that you have the accessibility to get them in and out of the house is going to be key. You need more time to evacuate, or even like getting to the basement. If we have a tornado, how are they getting down there? So that's sometimes going to be need to be looked at. When you look at planning, medication, I'm sure someone in here, one or two of you may take a medication, 2, 3, 5, 6. The key is not to run out of your medication. Some people rely on mail for medication. Is the mail on time? You can't just hope that it's going to show up on the day that you only have one pill left. So we try to tell people to have medications for at least 7 days in an emergency. We've helped people during house fires where they've lost all their medications to work with their doctors in the pharmacy to get things refilled. Depending on what type of medication it is, can be cause more problems. If it has to, your insurance has to approve it or something like that, and they just approved 30-day supply and you just lost it. Insurance companies are kind of funny that way, right? They want to throw more money at things. So just making sure that you have enough medication that's going to last you a few days. We always try to tell people to plan for 72 hours. 72 hours before help could be there. One of the hardest parts of being the emergency manager is trying to convince people of emergencies that haven't happened yet. We're always reactive more than proactive. So trying to get people to actually plan and prepare and have supplies ready to go for 72 hours is a tough one. But if you're going to be stuck in your home for 72 hours, it's good to have some of these things available. If you have sensory needs, so glasses, hearing aids, having extra batteries, having an extra pair of glasses. I'm sure in a drawer, probably in the kitchen, you have 3 or 4 extra pairs of glasses that have built up, right? Usually you get a new prescription, you don't throw the old ones away, you throw them in a drawer somewhere, just in case, and those are good to have. And then backup power is great if you have access to a generator in your home. One of the things I always like to remind people is if you're going to wire that, don't plug it in the garage and just let it run in the garage. I've been in EMS and fire for 24 years, and I've been to several calls for carbon monoxide poisoning because people just plug the generator in their garage and let it run. That's bad, okay? So make sure it's wired in correctly. And again, doing it on a day like today when it's nice and sunny and you're able to work with contractors to get that done, as opposed to we haven't had power for 2 days and now I need to do something. Because those are the ones that we typically see plug it in to a cutoff drop cord in their garage because they haven't had it for 2 days and they just want to throw something together. So again, very important to start planning today for the emergencies of tomorrow.
Yep. And so when something, when that emergency actually does happen, knowing when to call for help is something that I think, people might not necessarily know exactly when to. So, because, people's definitions might be different. So one person might call for, a little thing and someone might wait a little bit longer than what they should. So I guess during an emergency, when would be the right time to call 911, and when might there be better options before actually making the call?
So like Andy said, it's really hard to kind of tell for sure when you need to call or when you don't need to call, just because everybody's health issues are different. Everybody takes different medications. Everybody's had different past medical histories. Some people have a heart attack in the past and some haven't. If somebody has chest pain and they've had a heart attack in the past, they probably know a little quicker, hey, this kind of feels like the last time, I need to call right away. Where somebody who hasn't might wait a little longer. So here's just kind of a few that we see a lot that are probably pretty good reasons to call. Chest pain or difficulty breathing. Those two are the first 2 big ones that, a lot of our calls are difficulty breathing or chest pain, to where you probably want to call and get checked out before you wait too long. Those could definitely lead to bad ailments in the future. And if it's not treated right away, it could definitely be bad. Unconscious or sudden change of mental status. Those are 2 pretty big ones for possibility of stroke or any other neurological problems. So any sudden change in mental status is a big one. There's got to be a problem somewhere, and you probably should address it pretty quick. Obviously, severe bleeding or injury like that. If there's bleeding that can't be stopped, you probably want to call 911. Obvious signs of stroke, any facial droop, slurring, weakness on one side, blurred vision. We've got a list of things that we can go through and ask you if we get there. Stroke assessment is what we call it. We can kind of help you decide whether that's actually stroke or if it's anything else. And we can help you do that when we get there. But that's definitely something to call 911 for. Seizures lasting more than 5 minutes. Usually any seizure is probably not bad to call 911 on, I would think, just in case. Severe allergic reactions. We see that a lot. Anytime your tongue starts getting heavy, throat starts to swell a little bit, you want to call before too long there. We can give you some medication to help ease that and get you to the hospital pretty quick that way. So falls with injury. Anytime you fall, hit your head, fall and think you broke something, definitely probably better call 911. I don't know how many people are on blood thinners, but blood thinners are definitely something you don't want to mess with if you fall and hit your head. That could definitely lead to brain bleeds, and if not treated right away or not assessed right away, could be bad in the future. So pretty much any falls that you hit your head and you're on blood thinners, or any falls where you hit your head, lose consciousness, anything like that, you definitely want to call 911. Lastly, of course, fire. Smoke, fire in the house, you want to call 911. Once again, though, it's hard to tell from person to person just because everybody's different. Here's a couple that we get a lot that you probably could call a friend or family member for. Any minor illness, headaches, common cold, flu symptoms, you probably don't need an ambulance for. It takes up a lot of our time and a lot of the EMS service for calls that you might not need an ambulance, where you could go with a personal vehicle. And if it's ever something that you're not quite sure about, better off to call, and we can go there, we can assess you, we can take vitals, we can go over stuff with you and kind of help you towards the best path afterwards. Just because you call 911 doesn't mean we have to take you to the hospital. We can come assess you, get your vitals, and then help you find a ride, help you get a hold of a family member or something like that if we don't think you need to go. Just a lot of it depends on situation, and
So just to kind of transition to thinking more of like when a tornado comes and it's more of that type of emergency, and having a to-go emergency bag basically packed up and ready to go is kind of a very simple thing and practical thing that people could do. I guess, why should every older adult have an emergency bag packed and ready at all times? And what are essential items that could be put inside of that go bag?
Yeah, so a couple quick things. One, just from a medical, you just call an ambulance perspective when you're going to the hospital. I know he brought up we call it the vial of life. What'd you call it?
File of life.
Vial of life. So it used to be called the vial of life, and basically it was like a prescription bottle with all your stuff in it. You put in the refrigerator, and every time we showed up on the ambulance, we went and checked your fridge, and everybody just thought, what's he doing looking in my fridge? I can assure you, I was not making a sandwich, but we were trying to find that information, and those are great tools. I will say, again, 24 years been doing this, they've kind of gone away, or you find one hanging on the fridge and there's nothing on it, or someone drew a beautiful flower on it, but that doesn't do us any good. So that's important stuff to have. We talked a little bit about medications, having that 7-day supply. How many do you have your medications in a little box that tells you what day to take the medication? Okay, that's great for you. It's horrible for us, because we get there, you're like, what meds do you take? And you're like, here's the box. And great, you take 2 blue ones, an orange one, and a pink one. That tells us absolutely nothing. So having a list of those medications is huge, both from a go back perspective and from just the EMS perspective of taking you to the hospital. Especially, if you can't answer, you can't tell me what the pink or the vanilla pill is, or maybe you just lost a chocolate in there. I don't know. But having that list is very important. Same with allergies. Knowing what medications that you're allergic to on that list is very important. And that should be in your go bag and something for when EMS gets there. When we get there on the ambulance, we don't want to take 4 bags with us. Okay, we don't have a concierge service that loads all that up. Or checks your bag, or we don't have overhead storage bins for bags. So having a go bag is fine. It has backup glasses, your cell phone. A charger is important so that you can charge your cell phone. We talked a little bit about the home phone. A lot of us rely on cell phones now, right? How many of you know your emergency contact's phone number without looking at your phone? I hate to say this in this group, but back in my day, you had to know your friend's phone number. You had to know your home phone number. You had to know all these phone numbers. I still tell you my phone number growing up. But nowadays, a lot of people rely so much on their cell phone that they don't know those numbers. So having a list of phone numbers in there so that you can contact someone. You may know your son, your daughters, your nephews, one number, but do you know 5 numbers? Maybe you can't get a hold of 3 of them. So having that in your bag's going to be huge. When we look at it, go back for disasters, your typical flashlights, your ID identification, medical bracelets if you have those. You can put some snacks in there. Again, your go back needs to be updated and looked and gone through. And typically we try to do that twice a year. Same time we do our smoke detectors, our carbon monoxide detectors, and our weather radios. Hopefully you have a weather radio. So when you change your batteries, check your bag. Make sure everything's up to date. Any hygiene items that you may need. And that may come in handy too if you just lose water for a couple days. And we've had some pretty close calls in Jasper County in the last few months with some water issues and lagoons overfilling. And then, of course, keep your medications up to date. You don't want, expired meds in there that expired 2 years ago. Could have some different side effects there. And then any important documents that you may need. The big one would be living wills or your power of attorney information. Just having that information is very important, especially if something happens and you're not able to answer questions. We can look in there and see who can make those decisions for you or what your wishes are as far as end-of-life type treatments and stuff like that.
And then even with, we get prepared for, when disasters and emergencies strike, they can still be chaotic, no matter how prepared you are for it. So that's why it's clear to have a communication plan set up, ready to go. But like when emergency services actually arrive at the scene, Tyler, what information should someone be ready to give when, actually when they first call 911 and then when they arrive on the scene?
So the biggest thing when calling 911 is to be calm, clear, and direct. We hear a lot of chatter in the background on our radios, listening to some of the 911 calls, and people are screaming at the dispatchers, trying to yell, trying to tell them what's going on in a really quick and not very good manner. So the biggest thing for them is make sure you're calm and you can tell them exactly what's going on in a calm, direct kind of manner. They've got a lot of things to process real quick, right when you first call them. So the better you can tell them clear, the better off you're going to have for getting us information on where to go and quickly response for us. So the first 3 things that they're going to really need from you, your address, apartment number, unit number. If your address is kind of in a goofy spot where it's kind of throws you off on maps or something like that, have a landmark. Say we're close to the Casey's or close to Heartland Co-op or some big landmark where everybody would know. But the best thing is you got your exact address. That's the best. Then they're going to want to know the nature of the emergency. What's happening. Somebody fall. Did you fall, hurt your leg? Did you fall, hit your head? What's going on with the patient? Who is the patient? Is it your mom, brother, sister? Who got hurt? After that, they're going to want to know the condition of the person. Are they conscious, unconscious? What all are the injuries? And I think Jamey could probably agree. The first 3 things are the big things to get the ambulance going. From that information, they can usually page us out. And then after that, they're going to probably go into a little more of the background of what's actions been taken so far. Are they bleeding? Have you tried to stop the bleeding? Is there a broken bone sticking out? What's the further medical history? Have they had falls before? Stuff like that. And then, of course, number of people involved. That'll probably be one of the first things they ask, I guess. But just trying to get them all the pertinent information as calmly as you can, so that way they can relay it to us in a good manner. There's no miscommunication. Then, of course, they'll want the caller information, your name, number, callback numbers, all that stuff. So then when we get on scene, we'll ask you all the same thing the dispatch just asked you. We'll try to go into a deeper medical history. We'll want to list all your meds, how long this has been going on, if you have fallen multiple times that day, if it's first fall ever, Yeah, we'll just try to dive into more of the history. We'll need to know all your medication, whether you took your medication that day, all your allergies, if you have any allergies, what are you allergic to. Then, of course, we'll go into the, do we need to call somebody, get your emergency contacts. We need to let people know to see where we need to go from there. Yeah, that's all I got.
Nope. Yep. And then I guess Jamie, from a county-wide perspective, any other just overall thoughts on ways that we can be better communicators to dispatchers?
Yeah, I think the big thing is don't just call and say, hey, I need an ambulance and hang up. That does happen quite often, actually. And even if it's a missed dial or a pocket dial, it's important to, instead of you pick up your phone like, oh, I called 911 and hang up. Okay, they're going to call you back unless you have so deactivated cell phones are still required by federal law to be able to call 911. So when people call on a deactivated cell phone, we don't get the same information we would from an activated cell phone. So it's just kind of a general area. Whereas now, all cell phones have to have rapid SOS built into them. And what that does on the dispatcher's map when you call 911 is actually show a location within the structure. Typically, it is technology, and as we've learned today, technology can't fail or be kind of a pain. So for the most part, though, if I called 911 right now from this location, it would show from their map an aerial view of this building and show that I'm kind of over in this vicinity of that structure. So we can send rescuers there to take a look at it. We're very fortunate in Jasper County that our dispatchers who are overseen by the sheriff's office are EMD, emergency medical dispatchers. So when you call 911 and you have a loved one that's having problems breathing or maybe, God forbid, unresponsive, they can walk you through some steps to assist them. And that's very important. The American Heart Association has shown that for every minute that passes, you lose a 10% chance of survivability during cardiac arrest. So if you have a heart attack and go unresponsive and nothing is done for 7 minutes, that only gives our responders a 30% chance of resuscitation. Now, I'm not saying that it won't happen. It's all in God's hands, right? But it does decrease that chance of survivability. So our dispatchers are fantastic about being able to help and walk you through some steps, whether it's, putting direct pressure on an open wound or just holding your head or just holding your hand, every incident or every emergency requires a little something different. Yeah, again, stay on the line with them. When they show up, the other big thing is pets. So if you have a dog, some people's dog don't like other people. So very important that you have those put away somewhere or a plan. Maybe your neighbor's very well acquainted with Muffin and your neighbor can come over and put Muffin away so that when EMS gets there. I actually worked the ambulance this past weekend and we had a lady that called in. She was by herself and she said her dog is not nice. And then we're stuck outside the house until someone can get there. And usually it's our poor law enforcement partners have to go in there and try to corral that dog and get them in a side room until we can get in there and treat her. And she was telling the dispatcher, I don't think I'm going to make it. Well, when there's that dog there, we can't just go in there. If we as paramedics get injured trying to go in there, now we're victims. We're trying to control our own bleeding. We can't take care of that patient. So just making sure that you have a plan for those animals. Locked doors. If you live alone, how are they getting in? Do you have a key hidden somewhere? Do you have a number that unlocks your door? The back door of my house has a numeric pad on it that you can unlock my door. I could just give that number to the dispatcher and they can pass it on to the EMS folks so they can gain entry. So those are just some things to think about. Even deactivated phones are required by law to still call 911. So we get it a lot of times where parents will give their kid a deactivated cell phone. Right, you can't make phone calls on it, you can't text message, but you can still connect to your Wi-Fi and watch YouTube videos. And then they get bored and they'll dial 911, and then we'll just hear a bunch of kids laughing in the background. It used to be we told them, if you're going to give a deactivated cell phone to your children, take the battery out of it. Well, phones nowadays, you don't take the battery out. So it's just best not to give deactivated cell phones to your kids because they still can call 911. And then when we get that, it usually just shows your location, in a block radius. So then we're end up going door to door, like you have kids here giggling in the background.
I guess any other, Tyler or Jamey, any other 2 cents that just from anything we haven't covered? Obviously, we started with awareness, planning, communication, ended with on-scene response and what that could look like. But just if you have a piece of advice someone could take away, or just 2 cents.
I think the other thing from the response side is make sure that your house number is visible. That's always kind of a hassle when you're trying to find a house and there's 3 houses with no numbers on it. And then you get there and you think we're at the right house, and for some reason the odd number is on the other side of the street when it should be on this side. So just making sure that those are up on the side of the house, or painted on the curb, or however you want to do that mailbox. But just make sure they're visible. We used to tell people to turn their front porch light on, so we kind of get an idea. A lot of houses now have cameras outside their house, so when you pull up in front of any house, all the lights pop on because they're recording what's going on. So they're like, oh, that's the house. Nope, that's the house. Nope, this is. So yeah, just make sure that they're clearly marked. We talked about securing pets, and again, minutes saved is life saved. So the quicker that we can get there and get in there and do some assessments and get medications, EMS has come a long way in my time with it. There's not too much we can't do in the back of an ambulance that they can do at an ER, short of x-rays or actual labs. And actually, there's some places that are doing some quick labs and talking about doing ultrasounds in the ambulance and stuff like that. So there's a lot we can do. So if you see that ambulance sitting outside your house after they've loaded up your loved one and they're sitting there for 5 minutes, you're like, what is going on? They're probably starting medications. They're probably doing EKGs. There's a lot going on. They're not just hanging out and watching YouTube video.
Cool. We can open it up here for 5-10 minutes to Q&A. Marley, go first, then Jim, and then we'll go Shirley.
So for us, we will go wherever you want to go, as long as it's hospitals we transport to. We've got, we go your main big ones in Des Moines, Knoxville, Pella, and Newton. Those are the 6: Lutheran, Mercy One, Methodist in Des Moines. Those are the 6 ones we can transport to. And pretty much that's another kind of good thing to talk about too, is the small hospitals used to be ones nobody wanted to go to. They were kind of nervous. They didn't have the qualified people to do the same stuff as in the big cities. Well, now it's kind of, our life, it's kind of changed back to where the smaller hospitals have some of the same doctors going back and forth. And we've seen it recently where the big hospitals, it takes you a long time to get in and get treatment. Whereas if you go to the Pella, the Newton, the Knoxvilles, you get seen a lot faster. And if something more is happening, they can always send you to Des Moines. And that's always a judgment call too, from between the patient and the EMS provider. You go over your vitals, check to see what's going on. We can advise you to go to Des Moines Hospital or a smaller hospital.
Now, something to keep in mind is if you're in Newton, there's a good chance they'll want to take you to Newton Hospital. And the only reason for that is your insurance only covers the closest appropriate facility. So if you're in Newton, 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be the closest appropriate facility. And you can say you want to go to Des Moines, and they should take you to Des Moines, but you'll have to sign a paper saying you're going to be financially responsible for that because your insurance will not cover you going to a different hospital.
Yeah, we live 4.5 miles southeast of here, just barely in Marion County, 10 miles from Pella. When we dial 911, where will that call go to?
It should go to Jasper County because you're still listed in Jasper County. If it does go to Marion County, they will just send it to Jasper County. So all of our PSAPs, our public service answering points, are tied together, so we can send calls to other counties if needed. If it did come to, and I don't know, are you in Monroe's Fire District? Is that who responds to your house? Should be.
No, well, when we've called before, they come here from Pella. We say call Monroe because we're only 4 miles from Monroe.
Right.
And then we get ambulance and fire trucks from Pella, and we have to wait all that extra.
Yeah, so it's actually done by fire district. So you must be in Pella. So the call will come to Jasper County, and then Jasper County will tell Pella PD to pay route the fire and ambulance to your location. Now you can, if you didn't call 911, if you called a non-emergent number and say, I want Monroe ambulance, they should page out Monroe ambulance and send them.
But is 911 the first number we should call? Like we shouldn't call the fire department directly, the police department directly, just call 911? That they would send who's supposed to come.
Correct.
Some
Yeah.
of those lines over in that area, they get kind of funky with our fire district. Like some people on one side of the road are Pella, some people on the other side of Monroe. The lines kind of go all over, and we don't know sometimes which one is which, but I think it all kind of depends on the address and location.
The fire districts have been around forever, so it's hard to get those. There's so much work that goes into changing them, and
Well, obviously, in a legitimate emergency, we would rather have the closest available rescue or whatever.
yeah, you can call and request. They're probably still going to page the other one though, because that's who they have to page because it's their. Now, if you call the non-emergency one and ask for Monroe, but I don't want you to do that in emergency. Some of them respond. It's going to take a little more time.
Surely, and then go change.
I just have a question. When you live alone and say you're unconscious, how do you? No, I'm just saying the to-go bag. If you got one ready, is there a place you should put it? Should you have it by your bed? Should you have it by your door? How did you know you have one? How would you guys know that I have one prepared?
If it's by the door and you mark it as a go bag, typically if you're unresponsive when we get there, we're not going around looking for stuff. Our focus is going to be solely on you. And then, when you wake up and you're all healthy because we fixed you, you can call your family and they can go pick up the bag and bring it to you.
In general, the best spot by the front door.
Unless there's like a bookshelf in front of your front door and you use the back door every day. If the ramp's at the back door, that's where it should be.
James, did you have a question?
What do you use that non-emergency number?
For anything not emergency is going to be my answer. I mean, if earlier when Tyler talked about when things that call 911 for unresponsive, shortness of breath, chest pain, I always tell people, like for CPR or stop the bleed, if you think for 1 second you should start CPR on someone because you're not sure that they're breathing, start CPR. So if you think for 1 second I should call 911, call 911. They're not going to get mad unless you're calling them, for something that really isn't 911 related. You're just, hey, how's it going? What are you doing today? But yeah, if you think for a second you should call 911, then call it. They still do both, but the American Heart Association has realized that a lot of people don't want to do the mouth-to-mouth piece of it. Now, the chances of acquiring an illness from mouth-to-mouth CPR is very small. The big concern with mouth-to-mouth is air travels the path of least resistance, which is your esophagus typically, especially when you're really fast. And when the stomach gets full of air, the stomach gets upset, and then it's a muscle and constricts, and then you have what they had for lunch. So that's why a lot of people don't want to do the mouth-to-mouth component. So the American Heart Association has done some studies, and there's a lot of studies that show there's enough residual oxygen within the body that providing hands-only CPR, just focusing on chest compressions only, does make a difference. And like I said, for every minute that passes that nothing's being done, you lose 10% chance of survivability. And even in Monroe, and I'm not just saying this because the chief's sitting next to me, Monroe has one of the best services in Jasper County. Their paramedics are always out the door. They have people there, but there's still some time to get there. There's still time for you to make the call, for the dispatcher to do their thing. Minutes go by so quickly to the point where when you're on the phone with 911, you're like, where's that ambulance? It's been 20 minutes and it's been 2 minutes, right? And that happens all the time. So it's just, if you think for a second, like with the CPR, like pumping it. Out of curiosity, what was the ratio when you did it? This is actually an age test. I'm going to see how long ago it was. That was a while ago. 15-2 or 5-1 was a long time ago, 20 years ago. Now it's 30 compressions, 2 breaths. And again, if you're just doing hands only, you want a rate of 100 to 120 a minute, which is the old, and this is actually a group I can share this with, the Staying Alive song. I have to kind of change that up for other groups. Baby Shark is one. I've actually had a lady that I've shown up on scene that I taught CPR, and she was singing Staying Alive while she was doing the chest compressions, which is great. One of the other ones I say is Another One Bites the Dust, and I encourage you not to sing that one out loud. We're going to try to do them quarterly. We haven't done them for a while. Do you guys do anything new? So
for the fire department, we have to renew every 2 years, but we don't actually offer a public class.
If you have a day here where you all want to come up and do CPR, I'll gladly bring stuff down here and we'll do it. Yep. You should probably open it up and make sure it's still good. It probably stuck together. Yeah, so CPR is a great skill. Stop the bleed is the other. So CPR is great for the cardiac. Stop the bleed is the trauma side of that, where we teach tourniquet and packing wounds and stuff like that. So that's very important as well.
You raise your hand if you would have interest in doing a CPR class. Yeah, we'll work together and get something set up in the next month or two or whatever that looks like. But yeah, we can keep you guys updated on that. Any other questions? We'll do one more question if there is one. No, all good. Perfect. So obviously, just want to thank you guys for both being here today and just sharing your thoughts and things on how we can be better prepared during emergencies, and just very grateful for your time, obviously. So thank you for that. And thank you for everyone that came to today's seminar and joined us today. Obviously, these seminars are only as meaningful as the people who show up. So I'm grateful for everybody that showed up as well. Yep.
Real quickly too, so on the back table is some preparedness material. Kathy Ellis is with my office as well. So she brought some preparedness material. We do have an app, so if you have a smartphone, you can scan a QR code, which she also shared with you. There is an option in that app where you can register if you have vulnerable family. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to get priority when something big happens, but at least we know that, hey, John Doe's on home oxygen and he hasn't had power for 2 days. What are we doing for that individual? So having that app is great. And of course, all of the alerts and stuff come out on it. The nice thing about the alerts on the app is if someone's missing, we can attach a picture to it so you can see who's missing. And then Kathy can also help you with Jasper Alerts, which is our alert, text, and phone calls. So even if you still have a home phone, the alerting system will call your home phone. So very important to have those, so she can help you with that as well. So feel free to grab some information, download the app. We'll gladly help with that too.
Does Marion County have the same thing?
Not the app, no. They do have Marion Alerts though, so you can get the alert notifications.
Yep. Perfect. Feel free to have conversations with them, obviously, and our education partners. If you have any questions for them, they'll be here. Reminder, we have the file lifeguard. Just pick them up on your way out. And if you have any interest in the senior living community tours next Wednesday, the 10th, we have a couple spots open as well. So thanks everybody for coming, and have a good rest of the day. Sorry, I did forget something. We are hosting a free drive-in movie event on Thursday, September 25th. This month, obviously, September. But if you want to get signed up for that, it's free to come. You just have to RSVP by the 23rd. If you need any other information about it, we haven't picked the movie yet. Yeah, let me know if you want to sign up for that. So thanks.